Hi, I'm Scott Aaron. I'm the wardrobe supervisor for the Bagley Wright Theater. I've been at the Rep 5 seasons, and my job as wardrobe supervisor is to maintain the costumes during the show. Our department dresses all of the performers. We work with the costume shop to quick rig any special items that are needed in the show, to talk about how things are going to close, if they're going to be buttons or snaps or zippers. And today I am going to show you our costume storage that's under the Bagley Wright stage. So these are the items that the designers come to find for upcoming productions to use as reference, whether it's for a pattern or a size or maybe a color or a fabric texture. We do some trading or loaning or rentals to other professional theaters in the area, so they often come here. We are known for our collection of men's suits. We probably have the largest collection of men's current as well as vintage and antique suits in the area. This is also where I would come if during a show something happened and a pair of pants ripped or a skirt was damaged and we needed something to replace it right away. I would come downstairs and try and find something that worked, sort of triage the moment by finding a piece that we had on site. So I have a few things that I think are really interesting. I kind of nerd out on some of these vintage pieces as well as things that our shop has created. The first thing I want to show you is this dress that was from 2005 production of Three Sisters. Our shop made this dress, so it is modern because of the fabric. However, this collar is an antique piece, probably from around 1900, that was tatted. So that's similar to crochet, but it's done with thread and it's done with a little tiny bobbin. So this collar was added to make it look as if the piece were actually real from that era. It closes here in the front with a bunch of hooks, and you can see there's all these hooks that would close this up. This is the skirt. The snaps would be to attach to the front of the jacket, so the skirt always stays in place, and this center panel with the detailing would always stay in the front of the skirt. And then this is the belt that goes with it. This is a men's frock coat from 1911. It's really beautifully made. The wool is of a very high quality. We have, over the course of its life here at the Rep, none of us know how long it's been here, probably at least 40 years. It has been relined a few times, so the lining is modern, because that is something that would just wear out from perspiration or from stress points as it's being worn by a person. A coat like this, most men would have maybe only had one suit, and so this would have been worn for weddings, maybe to go to church. It could have been worn for a funeral or a formal affair. This is a larger size, which is kind of unusual because normally when these are still found, they're very small, just because people were smaller back then. But it's got some really lovely detailing and workmanship on it. These are actually the original buttons still on it that are silk covered. It's really a nice piece. Now, having said this is a reference piece, we don't keep too many pieces for reference anymore because of the internet. Designers, even the people working in the shop, can find pretty much any kind of information you need on the internet. So we don't need the actual garments like we used to for patterns or colors or that kind of thing. But I wanted to show you this because it's pretty lovely. This is probably from around 1900. It is a navy file, and It's got this beautiful, beautiful embroidery on it, all hand done. But as you can see, the lace is just deteriorating and shredding. So it's also probably a little too fragile at this point in its 125-year life to be worn on stage again. But it's one of those pieces that a few of us in the shop just don't want to get rid of because it's too lovely. Here's another interesting piece that I think would go on stage. This is probably from around 1910, 1915. It's a lady's three-piece suit. It's made of a tropical weight wool. So think in the old days when they didn't have all the synthetic fabrics that we have now, things like wool stayed crisp, but it had to be lighter weight. And this would have been worn in a tropical climate. So it has to me the look of like a African safari, or maybe you're doing your cruise down the Nile. It's really quite lovely. The detail on the back holding the belt on is really, really nice. Something that people may not know is from 1997 to 2008, the Reps costume shop made all of the costumes for Intiman, which is right across the way was at the old Playhouse. And this is a suit that our shop made for the Singing Forest. It's a modern suit. Well, at this point, it's, I think, 25 years old, but it's a modern suit, but the fabric is really fantastic. It's a really nice, heavier wool. If you see up close all the color in it, if you're sitting in the audience, you're probably not going to notice that. It'll probably come across as like a greenish blue fabric, but there's probably 4 colors in here making that fabric up. So this is our men's suit collection. As you can see, it's categorized by size, and all of these tags help us know what the chest size is. And don't see it, but often we will have notes on the tags that tell us how much margin there is to adjust the suit in the seams. Can we bring it in? Can it be let out? How large are those margins on the seams? But as you go along, it's easier for me to point out, or see, that's probably from the 60s or 70s. That looks like a 1950s fabric to me, a 1950s or 40s fabric. These fabrics that were used 30, 50, 100 years ago were of such a high quality and were so well maintained that we're really lucky that we can still use them in current productions, because it would be just cost prohibitive to replicate this jacket, probably well over $1,000 in time and materials. So we're really fortunate when we can reuse these and just have to do slight alterations on them. This is just a crazy one. We made this, but I believe it was for from the show in the 1970s, but it's a really high quality wool. It almost looks like one of those awful double knit polyesters, but it's a really high quality wool, and also has one of those sort of traveling salesman looks, from about 1910 or 1920. There are a couple great pieces which I think you've probably all seen when you came to see Laughs in Spanish. So our craftsperson made this, and this is all hand painted. This orchid is all hand painting on silk. The ombre dyeing was also done in our crafts department. And if you remember the show, when the mother came out and wearing this, there was this cape that went over it. And just so you can see, there are some buttons here on the shoulder, and then there are these grosgrain tabs that it buttoned onto. It gave the appearance that just floated on top of her shoulders, but that way it stayed in place and the actor didn't have to worry about whether that was going to slide off while she was performing. So those are the kinds of small things that we do to keep the look of a costume, but also make it easier for the performer themselves to do their job, which is act in the show. This is another piece that was designed by Daniel Nieves and then created by our shop. This suit was worn in Laughs in Spanish. It was a copy of a couture suit, but you can see it's got this really lovely kind of pale orchid lining. And then these little rattan ornaments are all added by hand. So when we needed to clean this, we removed all of those and then took it to the cleaners and then reattached them when it came back. That's the kind of thing that my department does, is in the maintenance, ongoing maintenance during a show. This looked spectacular on her, and it's really, really a beautiful, beautiful suit. So we have 2 rows here full of bins of things. These are pieces that can be folded to, they don't have to be on a hanger for storage. So we've got jeans and turtlenecks and sweaters and cardigans, anything that is sort of standard everyday wear that, again, doesn't have to go on a hanger because it can just be folded and put away. So back here is hat storage. Anything from a baseball cap to a fedora to a lady's bonnet, that's all stored back here. There are a couple hats hanging here that Brent made, Brent, our craftsperson. If you're interested in seeing more hats or anything here, let us know and we'll do another video about that. So this way, around the corner, are where all the ladies' dresses and skirts are, and there's really some interesting stuff here. The first thing I wanted to show you was this dress that was made for the Ballad of Soapy Smith. So the Ballad of Soapy Smith was the first production in the Bagley Wright Theater when the Bagley Wright Theater was brand new. So this was the fall of 1983. And this was probably, I think this is around a 1890-ish, 1880s style. Again, created by our shop. Quite lovely. This is a favorite piece of mine. This was worn by Mrs. Alving in our production of Ghosts in 2022. This was one of the first productions I worked on in my job here at the Rep. This was worn by Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, and I'm sure many of you know her work from film. She was an absolute delight to work with, and she looked really spectacular in this costume. This skirt has this underlayer, there it is, of silk chiffon. It's quite beautiful. We would refer to this as shark skin because the color changes from a green to sort of a purple. She also had a lot of undergarments on underneath this that made it fit properly. So a corset, she had a long line body shaper. A lot of times when people find vintage clothes and they say, oh, they don't fit right, it's because you don't have the right undergarments. It takes specialty clothing to sometimes wear the look and have it appear as it's designed to. So this was quite a process. It probably took us about 15 minutes to get her dressed into this one costume. And then I wanted to show you just a couple other dresses that I think are really quite lovely. These were for a production of Raisin in the Sun. Although they do appear to be vintage, they were made by our costume shop from a 1960s pattern. And I think the last thing I'm going to show you is from our production of Blues from an Alabama Sky last season. I hope you got to see it because it was spectacular. This was made for the main female lead. It's got a couple things to point out. One, there are wooden buttons on it, and as you can see, the top button is different. It probably came off at some point during the production, I can't recall now, but I didn't have any that matched, so we put that on. If you were sitting in the house, you probably didn't notice that. But the other thing I wanted you to see is that this is rigged for a quick change. So it looks like it's buttons, but it's actually snaps. That helps us. Sometimes we need to shave 10 seconds off of a change to get the performer back on in time. And something like snaps or Velcro, a zipper, may not be what the garment looked like originally or how it might have looked in 1920 or 1950, but those help us get everybody back where they need to be so the show can go on. So those are what I have to show you today. If there's anything else you'd like to see from the collection, let us know, and I'd be glad to do another video with Seth, and we'll let you know what other treasures are hiding down in the basement.